The habits that are limiting your progress the most are not the ones you know you should fix. They are the ones that feel like good practice, look like discipline, and have never been identified as the problem because they are surrounded by genuine effort. If this is your first time here, subscribe and share this with someone who trains consistently but cannot identify why their results have plateaued. This channel is built around the specific detail that separates effort that converts into outcomes from effort that simply repeats itself. Progress in fitness stalls for two kinds of reasons. The first kind is obvious: inadequate effort, poor nutrition, inconsistent sleep. These are easy to identify because they feel like failures. The second kind is invisible: habits that feel like discipline, that look like commitment, that have become so embedded in how someone trains that they are never questioned. These are the ones that cost the most because they are never examined. Here are 5 of the most common ones. Static stretching before lifting. The pre-workout stretch has been a gym ritual for generations, and for resistance training specifically, the research on its acute effects contradicts the intuition behind it entirely. Static stretching, holding a muscle in a lengthened position for 30 to 60 seconds, reduces the muscle's force production capacity for the period immediately following the stretch. The mechanism involves a temporary reduction in neural drive to the stretched muscle and a change in the muscle tendon unit stiffness that reduces its capacity to generate peak force. Studies have documented strength reductions of 3 to 8% in the sets performed immediately after static stretching of the target muscle. For someone performing a heavy compound session, static stretching the primary muscles before lifting is reducing the force production available in the working sets. The sets where the quality of stimulus determines the quality of the adaptation. The warm-up intended to improve performance is measurably impairing it. The replacement is dynamic warm-up, controlled movement through range of motion, joint rotations, and activation work that increases tissue temperature and neural readiness without the force production deficit that static stretching produces. Save the static stretching for after the session, when the muscle is warm, the training stimulus has been delivered, and the stretching serves its genuine purpose without costing anything from the session that preceded it. Training the same muscles too frequently, without tracking recovery. There is a belief in training culture that more frequent stimulus produces faster results. That hitting a muscle group 3 or 4 times per week is inherently superior to twice weekly because more stimulus should mean more adaptation. This is true only when each session is occurring against a background of complete recovery from the previous one. When frequency outpaces recovery, the sessions are not adding stimulus. They are adding stress to tissue that has not finished repairing from the last session's damage. The specific error is not the frequency itself. It is the absence of any objective measure of whether the muscle is actually recovered before the next session. Recovered does not mean not sore. Soreness is a lagging and unreliable indicator of recovery status. The more accurate signals are performance-based, whether the working weights and rep counts of the new session match or exceed those of the previous session at the same effort level. If performance is declining session to session on the same muscle group, the frequency is exceeding the recovery capacity. The solution is not pushing through. It is extending the recovery window until performance stabilizes, and then building frequency back incrementally, rather than assuming a schedule, rather than the biology should determine the training timeline. Never changing the rep range. Most people settle into a rep range that feels comfortable and stay there indefinitely. Whether it is the 3 to 5 range that feels strong and heavy, or the 15 to 20 range that provides the pump and burn associated with feeling productive. The body adapts to consistent rep ranges the way it adapts to everything, by becoming efficient at managing the specific demand. Efficiency is the enemy of adaptation. When the nervous system and metabolic systems have fully optimized for a particular rep range, the stimulus that range provides becomes maintenance rather than growth signal. Different rep ranges recruit different combinations of motor units, produce different degrees of metabolic stress and mechanical tension, and challenge the muscle through different mechanisms that each contribute to hypertrophy through distinct pathways. Staying within a single range means accessing only one of these mechanisms while leaving the others understimulated. Periodically varying the rep range, spending training blocks at lower reps with heavier loads and others at higher reps with moderate loads, ensures that the stimulus continues to challenge the muscle through mechanisms it has not fully adapted to. This is not program hopping. It is planned variation within a consistent training structure, and it is one of the most underutilized tools for breaking through the accommodation that fixed rep range training produces. Rewarding training with food. This habit is so culturally normalized that it barely registers as a behavior to examine. But its impact on body composition outcomes is significant enough to explain the plateau of many people who are training hard and eating what feels like a reasonable amount. The post-workout reward, the larger meal, the treat, the extra serving justified by the session, consistently overestimates the caloric expenditure of the training and underestimates the caloric content of the reward. A moderate resistance training session might expend 250 to 400 calories above the resting baseline for that hour. A post-workout reward meal that runs 600 to 800 calories does not just erase the caloric benefit of the session, it creates a surplus that compounds across the training week. This is not an argument against eating adequately around training. Post-workout nutrition matters, and the body's requirements around training are real. The distinction is between eating to support recovery and performance. Protein and carbohydrate in quantities matched to the actual demands of the session, and eating to reward the effort. An emotionally driven response to perceived exertion that consistently miscalculates the energy math in the wrong direction. Separating the nutritional strategy from the psychological reward function, finding non-food ways to acknowledge the effort, closes a caloric gap that for many people explains the disconnect between training hard and body composition remaining unchanged. Ignoring the deload. The final habit is one driven by commitment that crosses the line into biological counterproductivity. The refusal to take a deliberate reduction in training load because it feels like regression. Accumulated fatigue from weeks of progressive training suppresses performance in ways that are not always consciously felt, but are measurably present in the data of session-to-session performance. The central nervous system, the connective tissue, and the endocrine system all accumulate stress across training blocks that requires a recovery period, a deload, to fully resolve before the next block begins. People who train through the point where a deload would be appropriate do not continue progressing at the pre-fatigue rate. They train in a state of suppressed adaptation, maintaining or slightly declining in performance, accumulating additional fatigue on top of unresolved fatigue, and approaching the threshold where the accumulated load starts producing injury risk rather than adaptation stimulus. A planned 1 to 2 week reduction in training volume every 4 to 8 weeks, maintaining intensity but reducing sets and frequency, allows the nervous system, connective tissue, and hormonal systems to fully recover. The training block that follows a proper deload consistently produces a supercompensation response, performance and adaptation exceeding the pre-deload baseline, because the adaptation that was being suppressed by fatigue is finally expressing itself in a recovered system. The deload is not a rest from training. It is the final phase of the training block, the week that turns accumulated stimulus into expressed adaptation. Conclusion: 5 habits. All of them performed with genuine intention. All of them feeling like discipline from the inside. And all of them creating friction between the effort being invested and the results that effort should be producing. Static stretching before lifting. Frequency without recovery tracking. Fixed rep ranges past the point of adaptation. Food rewards that miscalculate the energy math. Skipping the deload because stopping feels like failing. Removing these habits does not require training harder. It requires training with a more accurate understanding of what the biology actually responds to, and the willingness to examine what has felt like good practice with the same honesty applied to what obviously is not working. That examination is where the next phase of results lives. If this identified something in your training that has been present so long it became invisible, subscribe and share this with someone whose consistency deserves better results than their current habits are allowing. Every video on this channel is built to give that level of specific, actionable clarity. The habits most responsible for keeping a person's training from producing what it should are almost never the ones they are aware of. Because the ones they are aware of, they have already addressed. The ones still in the way are the ones that feel like discipline, look like commitment, and have never once been questioned.